Dr. Ryan here with Straight Up Spine and Posture. Today we're going to be talking about segmental spinal motion. What is segmental spinal motion? Segmental spinal motion is this idea that globally I could move my entire spine this way or my entire spine this way. But the spine is made of many components, so I could also move this part of my spine that way or this part of the spine that way. Or I could move this part of the spine that way and this part of the spine that way. And so a lot of people, they're kind of like a one-hit wonder. They have one movement that they can do in each part of their spine, and they don't realize or use the multiple ones that they have. So that's what this exercise is intended to teach you, is to use these different types of movements that you have in the spine so that you have a variety of movements, okay? Now, it basically looks like a cat-camel type deal. But what we like to use is a mobility band, which is just kind of like a TheraBand. So if you just have any type of rubberized band or whatever, that's good enough. And there's a couple ways that you can do without the band, so let me demonstrate those real quick, but we definitely prefer the band method, so we'll talk about that chiefly. But one way that you could do this without a band is to do global or turning the whole spine into extension, or like the camel pose, and then slowly flipping it, starting from the bottom in a wave. So what that would look like is if I drop into this extension, so my pelvis is tilting forward, my back is arching, my mid-back is arching as best as it can, and I'm looking up, right? So all the areas of my spine are now in extension. Then if I start from the bottom and I untilt my pelvis without letting the rest of that spine follow suit, what I can do is I can kind of produce a wave of changing segments in such a way that it eventually ends up as flexion, and then I could start here again at the bottom and work my way back up so that this wave that moves up and down the spine is kind of twisting this way and this way, and that's the idea, that we're trying to mobilize each individual segment. For the banded variant of the spinal segmental movement, what we're going to do is we're going to take the band, it can be just any old band like a TheraBand, and we'll wrap it around so it's kind of like the bottom segment of the spine, and then I'm just going to kind of, tether myself to the ground here, so I have this tension that I can feel. And now I can use that as feedback. So basically, if I want to work on this lowest segment that it's on right now, I could work gently, so I'm rolling my pelvis kind of under, so a posterior pelvic tilt, and I'm creating a kyphosis or a rounding or a fetal position of the low back. And then without really changing too much of the rest of the spine, I want to kick that into extension, right? So now that segment, it's stiff, right? But I've flipped it. And then same thing, we can flip it again. So I'm really just trying to focus just here at the bottom. Of course, some other stuff is going to move, but right, I could take that to its extreme, or really try to roll that as far as I can, and now it's going to drag a couple segments above it, right? But I'm not doing this, right? I'm not rounding the whole thing immediately. I'm really trying to hold that upper back kind of still, right, so that I can kind of roll into this. And then once we feel like we have that segment, I'll move it up a couple. And now we're going to initiate our movement there. So now we'll try to kind of press that up, right, and then let that kind of arch down. You're going to have a lot more movement here. So we're going to bring that as deep as we can, and then we're going to press just that particular segment up into global flexion and really squeeze that. Now you should get some funky abs, like right under the rib cage with that. And then as we go down into extension, we don't want to accentuate this too much, just enough so that we break even there, and then from there we can squeeze those abs and try to produce that flexion again. Now, same thing, we can move up a couple, so now we're at the bottom of the rib cage, kind of top of the spine. This one's a little bit different. This one's going to struggle with the extension. So as I try to arch this, there's not too much movement there. This is a stiff part of the spine with that. So really focus on getting those back muscles to engage and produce some extension, and then from there slowly I'll try to produce that flexion so that it's just right under that segment, right, rather than kind of all over the board. And so you could do that at every level of the spine. You got plenty of segments to choose from, so you should have a lot of work cut out for you there.